Okay. That way. Not too close to me. I do not like you very much. Just for that great way here. Do you hear me? Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Well, good afternoon, everyone. And again, thanks to the team at Wells Fargo for organizing this. This is an amazing place. So I will ask you, to offer a round of applause to the Wells Fargo team. So, Darrell, I've been following you as a friend and as a business executive and as a leader. And I know you have a story to share, which is very relevant to our members here. You have been a founder, you have been a CEO, and recently you got a successful exit through an M&A process. So why don't we start talking about your company, NGI?
Okay. Well, thanks for Angeles Investors for giving me this opportunity. So, my story is not really centered around a product, but more services. So I see a lot of young faces here, but I started around late '90s when it was, the world was going to end because it was Y2K. Computers couldn't handle the year 2000. So I got together with two other people and founded a company, a services company. And then the year 2000 came and we were just not getting along. So I said, I'm going to step away. And I created a company called Next Generation Inc. with my wife. We called it Next Generation because at the time, my wife was expecting our first child. So we said, what better than to call it, the next generation. And what Next Generation does is we're a services company, technology management consulting firm. Most of our work is working on enterprise solutions, implementing like Workday, Oracle Cloud, time and labor solutions, and then the managed services that follow that. So that's Next Generation in a nutshell.
Wow. Darrell, as an entrepreneur, if you go back to your, yeah.
So it's easier.
Okay.
Easier to look at you.
Let's do that. If you go back to your early days in NGI, when you were, thinking about this idea, do you remember when you really noticed that this was going to be a good business?
Yes. So, the reason that, we also created a Next Generation from the beginning was, in order to give me the flexibility to, take on projects that I wanted. So it was basically me still being an independent contractor through, the firm. What happened was within those 5 years, I started to hire more, people to help me, both independent contractors that I knew from the past. And we were getting a lot of brand recognition to the point that, companies like Accenture were coming to us and asking us for help. And at that point, I said, well, this actually could be something that we can build upon. So I literally, in year 5, decided to stop doing, independent consulting and dedicated to grow Next Generation. So full time, kind of running the company and, just hiring the right people to be able to manage the growth.
You mentioned you wanted to spend time in things that you like to do, right? I mean, what were those things?
Car family too.
I knew you were going to say that.
Rafa has like a McLaren, but my wife is more a motorsports person than I am, and it's always been working with Porsche, the Porsche brand. So we track the cars, and so doing a little bit more of that.
Mm-hmm. Did you have the time to do it? How many Porsches do you have? More than one, less. More than one, less than 100.
5.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Let's go back to your journey in NGI, right? From inception to growing the organization, now your exit. When was the hardest moment?
I think I have two. So being a services company, you're really dependent on your clients and the work that you execute. So the first one that I remember was around the year 2007 to 2009, where we had a recession. practically, overnight, a lot of clients were saying, hey, we need to internalize our projects, or we need to cut our contracts. So that was pretty difficult. And at that point, I had never really gone to, get operating capital at a bank or anything to that nature, because I didn't really need it. And I said, okay, you know what? Now let me go see. But at that point, nobody was giving money. So it was like, I was really, really tough. So I got introduced to this financially independent person. And, we had a discussion, and he said, okay, you know what? I can help you grow. But let's do this partnership for a year. And as collateral, and I was desperate at the time, as collateral, why don't you give me, your stocks?
Wow.
So I said, okay, I gave him, half of the stocks. But that year actually ended up doing, pretty good. And after the year, I said, okay, our partnership is done. Thanks. You get your interest, and went back. And he said, I actually like what you're doing. I don't think I want to leave. And I said, well, that's not the agreement we had. And long story short, attorneys got involved, and then I threatened to go bankrupt. I said, I will bankrupt the company. I said, because I know I can do this all over again. And he said, you would do that? And I said, absolutely. So then he said, okay, you can have your stocks back, but I will take all your operating capital and all your assets of the company. So essentially, I started from ground zero again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How were you feeling yourself and your family during those times?
It was tough. It was really stressful because at that point I already had, 2 children, 2 boys. And obviously, yeah, my wife worked, but it was stressful for her to see, the way that I was, trying to handle things. And she's a big supporter of mine. And Marcelo, my wife, she gets involved. She also was, she worked for Price Waterhouse, so she kind of understood the business with me. And so she tried to help, but I'm like, there's, legally we're tied. So she said, I can't believe this is happening. So it was very stressful, but we got through it.
Okay. Thanks for sharing
The
that.
second one that I think that, impacted me was the recent, COVID situation, right? Once again, you couldn't be in an office. At that point, a lot of our revenue was government. So then they pretty much, kind of shut the projects down or put them on pause. And, for me, it was at that point, we had over 78 employees, and every single one of them depends on me to be able to feed their families, right? So that was very stressful. And so, what I ended up doing, I mean, we were doing fairly decent. So I took, I didn't take a salary for almost 2 years, just to keep, the company going, and everything that I had on reserves, I just poured into the employees. So
Did they know that? I mean,
they didn't know that at the time, but they found out, and they were very grateful. So I think it's the culture, right, and that we've built. So the median time an employee of mine has is 15 years. So I haven't really lost anybody.
wow, what a great leader you are.
Thank you.
Exiting a company, it's what I see when I see people exiting a company is not only a milestone from the business standpoint, but it's it's a little bit of an identity shift for
Absolutely.
for the leader of that organization. How are you going through the process now? And congratulations.
Thank you. So, we recently got acquired. So it's been September. So it's almost 3 months now. And yeah, thank you. And I thought of, when going into this, I'm like, oh, this is great opportunity. It's just going to be business as usual. No, it's not. So my mind has shifted a little bit, towards, I guess a couple of different ways. My mentality had to shift from a build to an architect mentality. And what I mean by that is I was, even though I had a leadership team, I was still very hands-on. But overnight, I'm part of an organization that 28 countries, over 5,000 employees. So it's totally different. So I had to kind of, start thinking more of, the architect role, which is, how do I continue to create long-term value? Because they bought me for a reason. Mm-hmm. And so trying to think about how do I continue to, to provide that, for the next, who knows how many years I'll be there. So, and then a couple more. Another one I think was on the emotional intelligence side, because one of the things, obviously, when you get acquired, our employees, and I saw this, get really nervous. Like, oh, what's going to happen to my job? Am I going to get overlapped? Am I going to get let go? And trying to, put the message down to them that for me, this acquisition was not, I didn't need to sell, but I think it was, the opportunities of growth for my own people and, for the company itself, because now, I just, finalized a customer in Saudi Arabia and, Brazil. So, now we have more reach, which gives them the opportunity to grow even more. If they want to say, well, I want to do a project in Brazil, then, there's an opportunity there for them. So managing that emotional intelligence to ensure to them that, look, you're not going anywhere, you're safe, is something that I've been kind of watching.
Did you think that one day you will not be there? And
no, I never. I thought, I thought that I would run a next generation until I couldn't anymore, and then I would pass it on to one of my boys. But as it happens, my boy said, we see what the long hours in the travel. We don't want to do that. They're in their 20s, so of course, right? And so I said, okay, what do I do? And this, this was the third time that somebody approached me, to acquire the company. And the first two, I wasn't ready. But this time around, I said, if it's the third time, maybe I might not get a fourth. So might as well take advantage of the opportunity and see how I can, continue to help, my employees and obviously, have more time to do other things.
What made you feel ready? You said I was not ready. What was the event?
I think, it was the culture. I spent time with their executives and their teams, their leadership team, and we thought pretty much almost the same. So it was the culture that I thought would be very easily adaptable between, both our ecosystems and teams. So that's one of the reasons that I think, I made the jump. And what helped was that, this company is a French company. They're still relatively small. They're about, 500-600 million in revenue, but only 5% of their revenues here in the US. So I'm tasked with helping grow North America.
So I'm sure we have many entrepreneurs here. Raise your hand if you are a founder, an entrepreneur. Many, yeah? So I think these people want to know the top 3 wisdom thoughts from you about being a successful entrepreneur.
Oh, okay. I would probably say create a great culture from the beginning, right? It helps to attract the right people that have similar goals and mindsets. Be really honest with communications. My wife sometimes says, you're too honest. But, you have to be honest with them through the thick and thin, right? Whether, the highs and lows, they need to understand, where we are, in the situation. So, I got a lot of help internally from my teams, right? When I was in situations where, I didn't know how to handle, and my leadership team was right there with me. So, communicate, honestly. I think build a strong leadership team, invest in your leadership team. I went through a handful of, my COOs until I found the right one. And I know I should have done it sooner, but, I say invest in your leadership team really early. And then the last one I would probably think of is, seek mentors and advisors, right? I think they're very important. And seek them, but be open-minded and take the criticism, with you. That's probably the best thing that I've done. I've been fortunate enough to be part of organizations where there's been leaders that I can go to, pick up the phone and call for advice, and some of them actually have gone to my office to do sessions, like Marcelo. So when I got the offer, to consider getting acquired, I made 2 phone calls. Marcelo was my first call, and another friend of mine called Myrna Soto. So both of them, I said, hey, this is happening. What do you guys think? And they both, advised me, and I appreciate that, Marcelo. You're one of my good friends, and I, seek advice. Don't be scared to really put it out there, and because if you don't, you never know what could have been.
You deserve it. So I have a surprise for you. This question.
A McLaren?
You can ask Rafa for that. Rafa, he has a few of them. I have to tell you, even better than a McLaren. I can tell you. But I need. Who has a pen here? A pen? Any pen? Just. Yeah. Just. It's not a Mont Blanc. Oh. Otherwise, I keep it. So now you're gonna close your eyes.
Okay.
Trust me, I'm not gonna get your wallet because I know you pay with your phone and you have no bills there. And I want you to open your eyes and look at that kid. Who is that kid?
Oh my! How did you get that picture?
I worked for the CIA in the past.
Wow! Oh my goodness, that's great. I'm gonna have to tell Haliza. When did Marcelo contact you? That's great.
So this is what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
You are going to write a letter
Mm-hmm.
to that kid from today.
Okay.
And you're gonna write it. I mean, obviously there's no
Yeah.
paper, but we pretend there is a paper. And the letter will start with, "Dear little Darrell." And I want you to say it.
Okay. I would probably say, based on my journey and experience, I would say, dear little Darrell, regardless, not regardless, but probably more to the tune of, oh, wow, you're putting me on the spot because I have so many things in my head that I would probably say, but I'm trying to consolidate it. I would probably say, dear little Darrell, although you come from humble beginnings, because as I'm sure most, immigrants here, we're the first ones to graduate from college or not. Although, coming from, humble beginnings, never stop believing in what you can do. Right? Keep going forward, surround yourself with the right people, and you will be successful. That's how I can sum it up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Darrell Higeros, CEO, NGI, and an amazing human being. Again.
Thank you.
Right, everyone.